In the previous tutorial, we covered how to find all values in a Google Sheet tab, or a range in a Google Sheet using Google Apps Script. In this tutorial, we are going to narrow that down to just find the first value, the last value or text, or the nth value or text. We'll also explore how to find the last 2, 3, 4, 5 values in a range, or the first n values in a range. We'll wrap up this tutorial by creating our very own function that you can reuse that will allow you to just put in a few values and search starting from the beginning of a range or the end of the range at a particular set of values. Now, before we dive in, there's a link to the starter sheet in the description below. Grab it, make a copy, and get ready to play along. Let's get started. First function we're going to do is going to rely on our previous functions from the last tutorial. So we'll make this quick. So we're going to call this one find first. And it's going to be based on the find all method. Okay, so instead of putting a variables inside this function this time around, let's create a sheet name and a text as a parameter. And up the top here, we'll just quickly comment this. And we'll call it find the first of the match. And our parameter is going to be a string, and that can be sheet name, and name, that is the name of the sheet tab. Next parameter is either a string or a number, and that can be text, and text to search is what the parameter is. Okay, we're not going to return anything for this one, we'll just console log. Nice. So the first thing, let's get into our spreadsheet. So let's create a variable, and one that doesn't change. That means we will use a constant variable. SS will set the variable to for spreadsheet app, and get active spreadsheet, this one here. Cool. And from that, let's get the sheet we're going to work in, which is going to be this data sheet down here. So const sheet equals, and that's going to be, we'll reference the spreadsheet, get sheet by name, and here we're going to add in our sheet name here. Just makes things a bit more versatile if we use parameters here. Our next variable is going to be the found value. So const found value is equal to sheet, and we're going to create text finder, and we're going to put in our text here. Oops, not there, here. And we want to use the find all in this first example. Cool. From here we need to get the first value, so let's go const first val, and that's going to be equal to found value, and remember that returns an array, so we want the first value that will be the 0th value of that array. Okay, and let's just console log this, and we'll say first val, get A1 notation so we can identify where it is. And let's just make things a little bit easy for ourselves and give you an idea how you might be able to apply this sort of function in your own work. And we can say first val, and let's just say activate. And let's just see what happens here. Okay, we can't run anything at the moment. We need to run this from another function. So let's make a function, and we'll call it runsies. That runsies function is just going to have in it first our set of variables. So const sheet name equal to data, which is this one here. So probably good practice just to double click there, Control C, Control V, paste. Nice. Const, next one is going to be the text. And the text we want to look for, let's find something somewhere in the middle here. 7, this one here, this number first. Let's just use a whole number. And then let's just call this function here. So we'll say find first, find all. And now because we've got all the comments in, we've got an explainer of what we need to add in, which is super helpful. But we'll just use sheet name, we know, and then text. Sweet. Okay. So if I haven't made a mistake, this will run and then record the first time that this 7440 appears in this sheet. And this sheet is quite massive, just to identify that we can do a finder in place pretty quickly in this sheet. Okay, saved. We will go down to our runsies function here and hit run. And we'll have to go through authorization first on our first run through. Cool. And we've got a 16,846, which is this item here. And you can see that our cursor has gone down to this item as well. Excellent. What about if we grab a person, this Dusty Fulbright, in our text here? We hit save and we hit run. Okay. B5265 is the first time that appears. Excellent. Okay, so let me show you a different way of doing this, which is probably a very common way to do it if you're trying to find the first item in a search. So let's just grab this code again and bring it down here just so you've got a reference. And you should do the same. And we'll just comment this one out. So I just hit Control and / there. And this time around, instead of using this find all method here, we're going to use the find next method. And instead of found value, we'll say first val. We've already got this first val here, but find next is basically an iterator. So what that means is when create text finder, it will go find the text that you need, and then it'll have this find next iterator that helps you go to the next item that it finds, and you can put an action method based on that. So you can see the values in the item, you can see the notation, the background color, that sort of thing. Okay, so we'll keep these people the way they are. We'll click off here somewhere, and then in our runsies function, I think that covers everything there. Yep, that should be it. And let's just, because we can't have two functions that are the same, let's just get rid of this altogether. Find first, or find first value. All right, so let's grab this find first value this time. This one here. Okay, so we've got our sheet name again and our text. Cool. So let's hit our run. Cool. So we got Dusty Fulbright B5265. And because this is a fairly beginner tutorial, just so you know, you can run other functions here. So let's just grab these variables here and hit Control C and paste them down here. And we don't need the sheet name. Shouldn't have grabbed that. Just the text. We'll call this text 1, so the second version of that. And let's just grab a date, for example, somewhere down here. And we'll run this again. And then we should have two console logs and one for each. The first one's going to be for Dusty and the next one's going to be for 10th of April 2020. Sorry, my American friends. Oh, I made a mistake there. My text should be in text 1. Let's do that again. Okay, cool. And you probably saw it for an instant, it went to this item here for this Dusty Fulbright item. And then lastly, it activated down in the C31,422, which is this item here. Cool. Nice. Enough of that though. So let's just comment this out again. And let's make another function. This time we're going to reverse things. And you might think this is going to be a bit difficult, but it's actually really not. So what we want to do now is find the last value. Now we could use this to iterate all the way through to the bottom, or we could make a change here. So for example, let's comment this. We could do something like found value, and then this, we could say found value dot length -1. That'll give us our last value in the list. But I wanted to show you the other way of handling this. Okay, so let's just grab this last function and copy and paste it in. And we're going to say find last value here and find the last position of the match. And here instead of saying find next, we're going to say find previous. Okay, and I think the dates here will be really handy for this. Let's go down to the bottom here and grab this last date. We'll put this one in here. And let's just make things right. Instead of saying first value, I'm going to hit Control D and D to select these 3 items and say last val. Hit save. Cool, click off that. And let's go ahead and add this function in. I may just copy this in here. Paste, hit save. And now we'll hit run. Okay, so the last value in that set is C40013. Now, if we wanted to grab the first value, so let's just go up to this one here and uncomment that. Have a look at the 2 different locations that are going to be logged. Okay, so the first location is C40006, which should be here. Yep, C40006. And the last location is this C4013. So it helps us get to the last value here. Of course, we can always do the same with a name here. I'll keep both open so you can see the difference. And we'll hit run for Cosmo. Okay, and Cosmo's down, his last value here that we can see is 40,003, and the first time it occurs is 26,224. Okay, what about if we want to find a value at n position? So let's say there's 7 values and you want to find the 3rd occurrence of that search value. Okay, so let's go all the way up to the top, and we're going to just copy and paste this function in for this version and make some modifications. And so we'll say find nth value. I'm going to add in an extra parameter here, and that will be a number that's equal to n, and that's going to be the position, and we'll call that find the cell of the nth match, where nth is the selected number. Here we're going to have to add in our n as a parameter. And now, as you might know, in coding, your arrays and strings all start from 0, not from 1. However, we expect the user to add in a value starting from 1. So what we need to do is just subtract 1 from that m. So let's go const position, and we'll say that n is -1. And here in our find all, we're just going to say we want to grab position of this array. And we don't need this anymore. And let's change this to selected val. And we're going to change this to these values here as well. Nice. Okay, so let's just grab this function header here now and just scroll down, and we need to add in a constant n or position, and we'll make this the 3rd item we want to find the position of, and hit find nth value. And if we haven't made any mistakes, we should be good to go. And hit run. Okay, so this has taken us down to B39999. And that will be the 3rd time Cosmo appears in this list. Cool. Okay, so for our next item, what about if you want to grab the first 3 items, the first 5 items, or first 10 items? How would we go about doing that? Well, what we're going to do is grab this function we've just created and make a new one. So you've got a reference. We'll type in find the first set of matching cells of n in length, or less, we need to say, just in case there's fewer than what you've selected. Everything is okay, but we also want to say the max number of items to report. Okay, so from here, let's move this position with Alt and up arrow up to the top here. And we can keep our spreadsheet and sheet the same. This time round, we'll change the selected value to found. And that's going to produce our find all array. And let's just make some space here. And what we've got to do next is get the n number of first items in the array. There's a couple of ways of doing this, but let's go with a simple one and we'll use a for loop. But beforehand, we're going to pack everything into a new array. Let's make a variable called let that we can add to, and location is equal to an empty array for now. And let's now create a for loop for let I equal 0, semicolon, I is less than the found length array, and semicolon, I plus plus iterates one at a time, curly braces, and then we'll say const cell equals found. Makes it easy for us to see what found I is. And the location, we're going to push the cell dot get A1 notation. Now we don't want to do that for every single one. We want to break this at a certain length. So here we say if I is equal to the position. We want to break this loop. Cool. And here we don't want to select any active values. We just want to console log this list of this array. Cool. Let's I'm not happy with this location here. Let's make it plural. Nice. So let's grab this function here, and I haven't changed the function name yet. We should probably do that. Let's find first n. Cool. I think that's everything now, and we'll go ahead and change this, and we'll comment this one out. We'll keep our details the same for the time being, but let's find first n. Yep, we'll hit run. Cool. So first time Cosmo appears, it's here at 26,222. That's the second time he appears, and then the third time he appears. Let's say we've got 10. We want to find the 10 items, and we'll get these last values here from 19. So let's get this 19th of February and put that in our text here. We'll hit save, and we'll run. And we've got this list here from 6, 7, 8 because we know each one's one after the other. It seems like it's an ordered list. But this length here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's only 8 items in the list. So it's not throwing an error for us because even though if we break it, it's just going to return how many are available. If we put something silly in here like pizza at the end, we should return just an empty array because there's no pizza in our list. The last thing we're going to do is just going to make this incredibly useful and reusable. And we're going to just set this first find first n to be searched in reverse as well as the other way around. So what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this again, Control C, come down for our last function, and let's just change this function to underscore version 2, v2. And let's add in a new parameter, and we'll call this one reverse. And we'll make it an optional parameter. So we'll set it to a Boolean false. And let's just add this parameter in here, param, and this is a Boolean false. And call this a reverse. And for optional arguments, you can put square braces around it to identify it as optional in your comments. And we'll say list from bottom to top. Let's return, and this is going to be an array, and it will be an array of cell positions of the found match. Cool. So we're going to return this array and then log it here. It's a bit more like something you would use out in the wild now. So instead of having this console log locations here, let's copy this, put this down the bottom here, we'll comment that out, and we'll say result here, and we'll make a constant variable called result, and that's going to be equal to our function up here. We missed a letter, so find first. Is that right? Yeah, cool. Nice. So that will log from this function, not the other one. And let's make this one locations, and we'll return it. Cool. All right, so we've got the main skeleton of it, but we need to do a couple of things here. The first part doesn't really need to change. Find all is fine. Locations is fine. But we need an if statement in here, and we'll say if reverse. Cool. So if reverse is true, then we're going to start from the bottom and work our way up to the top. Here we're going to make another for loop, but we're going to do a reverse for loop. So let I equal, and this is going to be the found array length, and that's going to be -1, and then semicolon. We want to stop when the iterator hits is greater than or equal to 0, another colon, and then we're going to, instead of going I++, we'll go I minus, so it subtracts 1 each time. Wonderful. Okay, so next let's make a constant variable called cell again. That's going to be equal to our found I, and then we will push our locations each time, so locations dot push again, and cell, and get A1 notation just like we've got below. One thing I forgot to do is up here we need a counter, and let counter equal 0. So we need to update this counter each time it iterates through this for loop. And I'll explain one in a sec, but we'll just say plus plus counter. And then we can say if our counter is equal to, in this case, n, because on the first time through it will start with 1, then 2, 3. We don't have to subtract 1, so we can actually use the raw n here. Then we want to break this iterator, this for loop. Cool. All right, so that's our if statement there. Then we want to say after the if statement else. So if we want to do things normally, or from top to bottom, we just want to add this in, this for loop we made before. So let's X and Control V and just tidy it up with a tab and make a space there. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, so let's reduce this down to say 4. And we'll keep that date because it's probably just going to be easier for us to see what's going on here. And let's make a change to this one, reverse. Because it's optional, if we leave this out, it'll say false. So it should report back these values here. So let's give that a run first. So hit save and run. So for 0006 through to 0009. Awesome. Okay, so let's now make this last value true. Remember, that's our reverse Boolean, so if it's reverse true, we should get these items here in reverse order, starting from the 40013 all the way up to 10. Let's have a look. Yep, 40013 all the way up to 10. Let's just put those two, one after the other, so you can see, because it's optional, we can actually add in false in here if you want. Oh, made a mistake. Oh, I've set two constants. Result 1, result 1. Silly boy. And run. Okay, so this is our reverse set, and this is our from top to bottom set. Awesome, everything's working out great. So this is completely reusable now, depending on what you want to select. I know this is a fairly long tutorial, but I wanted to make sure that we covered the accessing the first, last, and an nth location, and then grabbing items starting from the top and the bottom, and then compacting it all into one package that you can reuse in future in multiple projects or many times in the one project. The next tutorial is going to be much shorter, and we're going to talk about how to find a cell based on our search and activate it, or find all cells and activate each one of these values based on a search item. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more tutorials like this, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. It really helps out with the algorithm. Until next time.